love to have them introduce themselves. So first, if you guys can just introduce yourselves, talk about your role, what you guys about your company, what do you guys like to do in Central New York, that'd be awesome. So I'll start off with Linda.
So I'm the first one tortured.
Ladies first, remember?
Okay. So I joined recently Accenture as a software engineer. And what I do on my role, it's kind of difficult to talk about because first of all, I just joined the company last week. And now we are in training. We started the orientation training, and this week we are trained on the, especially on the how Accenture work in the projects. They are fictitious projects, and we get to work later on. I think in 2 weeks we will finish this training, and after we will get another training related to our job that we will go to work on. The thing is, I cannot tell you exactly what my day-to-day role is due to the fact that Accenture works with the government and agencies. But I can give you only an idea of what is on my plate. I will be working on a financial project for a 401k product, and I will be on the designing part of the project. Might be by the time we will join, I will join my team, I will be reassigned to a new project, who knows. This is what we can expect at any moment working with Accenture. We will not be bored, that's for sure. We will only need to be able to embrace this change and to adapt fast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linda, for the introduction. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself? I think you're muted.
One sec, Mike. Sorry, that might be my fault. I'm sorry, Mike. Give me 2 seconds. Should have got a notification on your end, Mike. Yep. Sorry about that.
There we go. All right. I like it, Jesse. Solid security. Hey, I am Mike Vormwald. I'm a lead engineer at Stitch Fix. Stitch Fix is a personal styling and fashion company. We sell clothes personalized to clients. They are based out of San Francisco. I've been working there almost 4 years now. Before that, I worked for a small security startup in DC for a couple years. And before that, I worked in Syracuse. I worked at a company out of the Tech Garden, and I worked for a defense contractor in the area. Yeah, that's my intro as it relates to remote work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Josh, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Joshua Burdick, and I'm a senior developer. I'm actually the lead developer for Hello World, which is a company that's based out of Portland, Oregon. What we do is we act as a software consulting firm for a large variety of different businesses. So some of the biggest names that we work for right now would be DCcomics.com. We do some work with Tommy Hilfiger, with the North Face. We write software for Bent Erickson, which is a dental HR software platform, as well as Dub Lewis, which is an animal hospital that's based out of Portland. They offer a lot of digital trainings and that sort of thing. My role for the company, I do a lot with software architecture, ideation on any sort of new project work that comes in. I do a lot of work with our new apprenticeship program, as well as mentor any sort of developers and answer any sort of questions. We have a huge variety of different software stacks that we work with, everything from PHP and Drupal to I mean, basically anything that needs done that we get contracted for. So that's a good introduction for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joshua. Fun fact for everyone, Joshua and I actually met at Upstate, so it's really great that I invited him to this panel and he's able to participate in the first Upstate that I am hosting. Next question that I have for you guys, can you guys just speak a little bit more about why you decided to work from Central New York? Why you guys decided to work from Central New York as opposed to working at your company HQ? Linda?
So only to give you a background, even though I moved and worked around the world, because I'm born in Romania, I lived in Italy 12 years, and almost 8 years ago I moved to US. I reached a point when I got married with an artist, and I think you can see some of his art in the background. And he uses aluminum for his creation, and he needs big machinery to transform this aluminum in art. We moved already once for myself a few years ago to work for a corporation nearby, but it was really pretty painful to move those machinery tools. Although I got an interview in 2018 with Google for a UX, UI position, it required me to move to New York City, which was impossible for the reasons I explained earlier. The other reason is that I like a lot my small town with only one road, 2 traffic lights. I used to live in Rome, Italy, a metropolis, which is pretty much like New York City, as traffic and chaos for 7 years, and I really enjoy my quiet life in New York State.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linda. I didn't know that you were such a world traveler.
Yeah.
Mike, can you share your story about how you ended up in Central New York?
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in here in Tully, New York, which is a little south of Syracuse. I went away for college, but I came back in the mid 2000s. And at the time, I just wanted to move back. I had friends here, I had family here. I got a job right away out of college. And at the time, remote work wasn't really a thing. So I kind of just got by with what I could do working in the local area, and that's evolved a lot. But the reason that I've stayed and haven't had to move out of town to work on projects that really interest me is due to this remote work, and I really do love it here. I've got family. The seasons are just fantastic. I saw Dana's slide had apples. We're very big on apple season in this house, so. Yeah, just the ability to do outdoorsy things. I've got a lot of coworkers right now who live in the big cities like New York and San Francisco, and they're just trying to find ways to not go crazy on being pandemic lockdown, and we can just go out hiking every weekend and kind of it opens up a lot more stuff. I think people are starting to see that now. This is good timing for your panel, Jennifer, because a lot of people are interested in remote with the state of the world. And yeah, not having to deal with traffic, being able to get from one side of town to the other is fantastic.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you for sharing your story. I definitely resonate with everything that you mentioned because I'm also was born and raised in the area. Josh, can you tell us your story about how come you stayed in Central New York? I know that you are more of a newcomer to Central New York. You moved here about 2 to 3 years ago.
Honestly, I love it in Central New York. I love Syracuse. I love the surrounding area. I mean, Dana definitely mentioned a lot of great reasons in her presentation. And it's fun that Mike brought up the apples. I mean, recently rated as the best apple cider in the whole nation. So that's, something to be proud of. But I've lived every place in the United States. I've been everywhere except for Alaska and Hawaii. So from coast to coast. And out of all of the places that I've been to, this is my favorite. I have a lot of friends here. I have family here now. I mean, more than that, the houses are really cheap. I can live a fairly lavish lifestyle on the salary that I make, which wouldn't necessarily be possible if I lived in a much larger city. If I lived even in Portland, which is where my company is based out of, the cost of living is roughly 3 times what it is in Syracuse. So the type of house that you can have and the type of, just everything that you can do is so much bigger when you live in a place like Syracuse. Even more than that, we're really close to a lot of really great places. I keep saying really, but we're only about 4 hours away from New York. We're only a couple of hours away from Pennsylvania. You can go to Philadelphia on a weekend trip. It's really great being able to work remote and travel and continue to work if I need to. I can take off for the day and clock in from a hotel room Thursday, and then Thursday night go check out some local scenery and that sort of thing. Obviously, some of that's on hold with COVID right now, but it's going to get much better once things start opening up next year.
Awesome, thank you, Josh.
Cost of living is a good one. I was going to mention that. It's pretty fantastic the way you can live here as opposed to San Francisco or New York.
Exactly. I totally agree.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really great to hear from people who've lived all across the country and all across the world, and they've chosen to live here. It just really shows how great of a place it is to live here. And next question, this is for Linda. I know that Linda, you recently transitioned to your position. How did you find that position, and what was that application and interview process look like?
So I found about the position from Albanic Code, where last year I took a front-end JavaScript frameworks for the backend class held at SUNY College. And Albanic Code was by my side all the time, providing me new clients for my remote freelance work that I was doing before as a web developer and web designer here in Capital Region. And I got to know about the position with Accenture right after the graduation last year. But after a few rounds of interviewing with Accenture, unfortunately, I didn't make it. This year, again, as usual, Albanic Code continued forwarding me all the opportunities available, and I always followed through the process. I tell you the truth, it was my dream to work for a corporation such as Google, Facebook, Amazon, or Accenture. And that's why I applied to all of them, and I got through the job interview process. I will tell you a little bit about my experience and what I did. Even if I didn't make it till the end to all of them, I got the experience with the interview process of the big corporations. I was able to test in real time my resume to see that was passing through the automatic scan process and get to reach to a human, got call interviews, got technical interviews, which was the scariest for me. And ultimately, after all of this, the most important part was that I got practice interviewing with them. Most of the people usually, when they don't get the job, they get kind of frustrated because of course, it's a dream and you want to work there. But the thing is, you don't get a better practice experience with interviewing just by doing it with your friends or family. The best experience is to do it with real companies, to see the real technical interview, how it goes. And you don't know what questions they will ask you. It's one thing to prepare some questions, give it to a friend, please ask me these questions and I answer. And it's a different experience when you just go with Google or Facebook or any other corporation to do these job interviews because you don't have any idea what they will ask you. So this prepared me on my road to success. I tell you the truth, I never took it as a negative experience when I didn't get the job. It was like a next step to go up on the ladder. Instead of testing my resume with online tools, I got the real experience. I also crafted thank you letters when I didn't get the job and sent them to the interviewers that took the time to train me for success. Most important is that I didn't have constraints to find the job quickly because I was working as a remote freelancer, and I didn't have to accept any offer. I had the choice to choose what it was best for me. As I told you, I was working as a freelancer since 2018. And when I left my job for a big corporation where I was working as a web developer and designer here nearby, I was always preparing to hit the jackpot. I never stopped doing that. Being a self-taught developer and designer, I took some bootcamp classes here and there, like Free Code Camp, like everybody knows Free Code Camp, Albanic Code, Careers in Code, and Practicum by Andex, to name a few, in order to stay in top of everything. You know that all these programming languages, they are evolving by day. And what I learned last year with Albanic Code, Now it's a little bit higher. So taking practicum by index, I went to learn the newest skills. My biggest issue in all of this was the technical English gap, which made it difficult for me to explain what I was expected to give as an answer during the interview. As Accenture interview process, as you might know, it is a very long one, around like 2-3 months. As it's for every big corporation. I think this is something we cannot hide, everybody knows it. So you get usually 2 HR interviews, and keep in mind that the HR managers and recruiters are your big ally. They will give you the tips to prepare for the technical ones. So please ask as many questions as you can, as they will guide you to success. Of course, you have to put all the effort to prepare. I had to get the role, don't get me wrong. But for me, the technical interviews was always the scaring ones, and I had to prepare algorithms and data structures, coding in HackerRank or Codewar platforms. Also, FreeCodeCamp has these algorithms and data structures as practicum. So for the technical interviews, and not only, in all this time lapse, I worked on my portfolio projects and have my GitHub account very active. The technical interviewers are looking for those. That's why I pointed out all of these. Not only, you'll get questions related to. One of the technical interviews is centered on your coding skills and analytical thinking, and the other one is more centered on your problem solving and behavioral skills. I hope so that this answers your question.
Thank you so much, Linda. Yeah, that was extremely thorough. And we would love to follow up with all the links that you had suggested. So if you can provide them either in the chat or on Slack or Discord, I think the participants would be, find that very helpful. Awesome. And I know that for Josh, you had been working like all across the country and have been in many different positions. Bouncing off of Linda, what advice do you have for developers who are interested in finding a remote position?
The biggest piece of advice I can give you is to cast a wide net. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. It's really easy when you're looking for a job to get super focused on one company and just keep dreaming about or thinking about one company, apply maybe just one place and just put everything into that one company. And that's not the best way to do it. You should, just like Linda was saying, you need to interview a lot of times to get good at the skills required to pass an interview successfully. You need to be able to reach out to a large number of different and get those skills, as well as learn more about what you want in a job, learn more about how companies work and how companies will interact with their employees and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, to have a really happy work-life balance, you need to know what's important to you and be able to identify companies that are going to actually like mirror those sort of values. So don't just apply one place, apply 100 places, 150 places. I mean, like a day or even a week. You need to reach out to a large number of different companies, and if nothing else, like look at each of those experiences as a positive thing. It's not negative if you get rejected by a job. That's absolutely not a bad thing in any way. Look at it as, you learned something new. You figured out, a new interview question that maybe you weren't expecting to get, or maybe you learned something new about how a specific company or a specific industry works that you would have never thought about in the past. So it's definitely a good idea when you're looking for a business, when you're looking for a company to work for, to cast a really wide net and apply a ton of different places.
Thank you, Josh, for the advice on applying to many different places. And bouncing off of your statement, what was kind of your strategy when you were applying? Were you applying to a specific geographic location or specific industry? Did you have a specific strategy?
Well, specifically as well, I guess to explain a little bit more about finding remote work, don't just apply to places that specifically list remote positions. A lot of companies are way more open, especially nowadays, to remote positions than you would think. They may not necessarily advertise it, in full bold letters in the header, remote work only or remote work accepted or something like that. But if the company finds, especially as a software developer, engineer, project manager, I mean, any of the things in this sort of technical field, if you're the right person for the job, most companies are going to be more than happy to hire you remote. So rather than focusing purely on things that are remote, cast a wider net, apply to a lot of different places. And what I was doing is I found things that were interesting to me. I'm a little bit more privileged in that I've been in the technical world for, I've had tech jobs for about 10 years now. So I had the ability this time around to really focus on companies that were going to be exciting and that were going to be interesting and that were going to have projects that were going to be challenging and teach me new things. So something that really interested me in the company that I'm working for now is that they have a strong culture. They care a lot about, it's hard to mention anything out of Portland and not mention something to do with the protests or some of the stuff that's going on there. The company is actually taking an active role in that. I mean, the people that I work with are there protesting. The people that I'm working with, we are working on an apprenticeship program now that is specifically designed to help people in disadvantaged communities and that sort of thing. So it was really exciting to me because there were a lot of, we had a really big cultural match as well as having really interesting projects. I mean, working with the DC Comics staff is really awesome. I get to see like new Batman stuff before anybody else knows about it hardly. We wrote like a book import tool for them that, they use to actually like stream comics to phones and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool. But I didn't just apply to one place. I applied to, at least 200 different jobs and interviewed with probably 36 companies before accepting this position. So if you want to have the option to pick the place that you maybe didn't even think that you wanted to work at, but you're going to love working at, you need to apply to a lot of places to be able to do that.
Yeah, it sounds like really casting your network wide, which what we're advocating here as well by making this event virtual, having sponsors from all across, but also having people from all across the world join in and really network with participants is really what we're trying to aim for as well. So thank you, Josh, for that. Mike, I know that you have a lot of experience as well working in development. Can you actually talk about like what you do day to day in your role?
Yes, of course. Sorry, I've been thinking, listening to what they were saying, and I just want to toss one more thing into the finding jobs, if that's all right, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Just one thing that didn't really get mentioned is that building your personal network is super valuable. I think that a lot of great points there. Cast a wide net, find the ones that you really want to go for, and then get interviews just to practice, because interviewing is a skill just like coding, just like anything else. But if you connect with other people, and be it through, the sort of local meetups that we do here, through these Hack Upstates, like these are connections and people that you can call on later. And, there's jobs channels in the Hack Upstate Slack, I know. We have one that's local in Syracuse. Then there's a job channel there. So people are always willing to help the community if you're part of a community. And it's a great option to shout out like, hey, I'm interviewing for this job on Tuesday. Like, what should I know for this sort of thing? And then it's always a lot easier. Like if I have a job posting open up on Stitch Fix, I will put it out to the network here. And if someone is interested in that position, like it's always good to know someone at the company. That's a great way to get an in. So I just wanted to highlight that your personal network is huge as you're looking for these remote jobs. But your question was on the day-to-day. So I have been moving up slowly but surely into more of a project management planning role recently. We still do a bunch of code, but as lead on the team, there's 4 and 7 on us based on the project. And there's a lot of upfront work that we do a quarter out to a couple week sprints out at a time to make sure that the team is totally unblocked. We've found any of the hidden dragons that might be laying in the code for us to stumble across. So that takes up a lot of my day recently. And more specifically, I work on an internal tools team. We work with a stylist at Stitch Fix to help them pick out items that would match with a client. And we have a whole team of product managers. We have data scientists. We have a lot of different groups that all need to align on the goals for a given project, a given quarter. So that takes up probably half the time. And then the rest of the time, I'm in there writing React code, getting PR feedback, and trying to mentor some of the younger developers on the team as well. So there's a lot of meetings. We have everyone is on Slack all day, but we try to be as async and friendly as possible. So you're not required to sit at your computer watching your notifications pop up. We have scheduled daily stand-up where everyone meets and discusses anything they're blocked on, and what they're doing today and tomorrow is sort of our goal in those. And then we have scheduled one-on-one meetings with everyone on the team. And those are just usually a half-hour sit down with everyone. It can be, it's kind of encouraged not to be a technical meeting because the more you know about your coworkers as people it helps everyone, it helps the team bond, and you get a chance to know how people think and how they communicate and how they operate, and that on a remote team is extremely important. So yeah, that is most of my day is planning, a little bit of code, a lot of feedback on pull requests, and mentoring, and then meetings. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Josh, can you talk a little bit more about your day today?
Sure. So it's actually really interesting because we are structured a lot differently than the way that Mike was explaining how his company works. We have very few meetings as a company as a whole. We don't do daily scrums. We only do scrum once a week. We meet on Monday and that's it. And then we have very few meetings only when they're absolutely necessary or something like that. We're also a smaller team. We don't have a ton of product owners or project managers or anything like that. We have a single product owner, and then we have about 10 developers right now. We also don't really have any intention of growing past 20 people. So even though we've been experiencing growth and we have the ability of additional developers, we don't have any desire to do that. We like the size that we're at. We're not really looking to grow to a huge company or anything like that. So my day-to-day is really awesome. My company is scheduled, they're about 3 hours behind in time. So they don't actually, that Monday morning scrum doesn't happen until 1 o'clock local time. So by that time, I've already gone to the gym. I've already, done some training. I've eaten breakfast. Sometimes I've eaten lunch, that sort of thing. And then I'll come back and I'll have that meeting, or I'll have any other daily meetings that I would need to have. Occasionally I'll meet with clients, although most of the time, the only person that'll do that is the product owner. And then the majority of my time is spent working on code. So it's either working on code directly, doing pull requests, reviews, or directly working with and mentoring some of the junior developers to show them how to, write better code and that sort of thing. I also meet with our apprentice. We've got one person in that program now. We're looking to really expand that out. But the total time I spend in meetings is probably about 5 to 6 hours a week. Everyone is really structured around a positive communication, but we make sure that we do that communication largely through Slack. So we'll have a lot of group channels where we don't really try to keep things to only a small group of people. Everybody that's involved with the project has full visibility into the project and has access to the same Slack channels. We also use we use Jira to structure everything. So we'll have work items written in Jira. We'll put any updates directly on the tickets. We'll make sure that everything is as visible as possible. Now, in order to manage that and make that work effectively for us, we need to make sure that we have good documentation around every single project. Anything that we do, we need to document and make sure that that documentation is available and accessible. And we're always available in the event that we do need a meeting. So it's not like we don't need to jump on right away. Like if somebody asks a question, we're not expected to answer immediately. It can be around our schedule, which is really nice. We're able to schedule our work around our life instead of our life around our work. But if we do have that sort of availability and that sort of communication with our team, where we know that if any one of us runs into a problem, it's really easy to just reach out and get that question answered before it becomes a bigger issue.
Thank you, Josh. It's really interesting to see the difference between Mike and Josh and really their role. I know that Linda, you have had a lot of experience working remotely. Can you talk a little bit more about the challenges of working remotely?
Actually, I would like only to add one thing for the remote work. I would say that this is the right moment for remote work, period. There are so many positions available that are not filled, and the job market really shifted with this coronavirus, and we only need to adapt. This happens many times through the history, but now it's we are more aware of it, and we need only to have our ability to just adapt to it. My experience with the remote work started, if I have to tell you the truth, even when I was in Italy, I was able to work remotely because I had to travel a lot and I had to make my office a office movement. I started in US 2 years ago. In 2018, I started my journey with working remote. Working remotely as a freelancer and now for Accenture makes me more productive. And I tell you this because in the past I worked a lot on premises and the offices, which was a great experience. Don't get me wrong. You get to learn from the people around you. You are able to ask questions, get your answers. But the remote life makes your life much easier. As the guys already explained, you adapt your work around your life. And now, especially with the lockdown, I can tell you that, I don't know every company, but big corporations, they put an accent, a highlight on the human relationship. They nowadays it's acceptable if your dog bark or your husband works in the background, the kids come in all of the sudden in your, I don't have children, but if you have children and your children wants to play in your room when you work, it's something more acceptable, which this will not happen years ago. This became our new normal, and I guess it makes you more relaxed comparing when I was having meetings, let's say 2 years ago, working as a remote freelancer with my clients. I would put the dogs in the kitchen. My husband is not allowed to pass in my room and things like this. But the lockdown created this ambient where it's understandable that you will have an interactions or things happen, and is not anymore a problem as it was before. So also, another thing that I really like it working as a remote, you get to disconnect from everything when you need to focus in a project, which is easier comparing if you are in an office and somebody just walk in to ask you to help them in another project. So there are things that you can schedule for later on, and you focus in your project and you are more productive. This luckily can be achieved in bigger environments easier because let's say for Accenture or for Google, big corporations, they adapted very fast to the remote work because they already had things in place, so it was easier. Maybe for smaller companies, they have to work a little bit more, but I'm sure this will be available for everybody. Luckily with Accenture vision of work, it's based on networking, and with 500,000 employees around the world, you have a big network. And if you need help with something, you can just post a question on our internal portals, and you find many of our colleagues willing to helping you answer your questions and so on, or guide you where are the right resources, because they have a huge, vast documentation website where you can, everybody shares documentation. And if you cannot find it, especially when you start as a new person, it's really difficult to surf all of this, but you have so many people helping you, and you don't feel this disconnection from the in-person reaction.
Awesome, Linda. Well, what's your then a question to follow up on that? What's your favorite part of working remotely?
The favorite part is that I am able to work on my environment, which makes me more productive and creative. And I will give you an example. Just seeing the sun or the rain or the snow from my window without having to go outside when it's the bad weather, that doesn't have any price. I think everybody likes it. Another thing, even though I can go in the backyard at any time and take a break or something like this, the other thing that I really I enjoy as a working remote are the icebreakers, and I will explain you what I mean with I'm not sure if it's a lockdown fashion nowadays, but I saw that even Google, when we have meetings, or Accenture, they have these icebreakers in our meetings, which use us to connect as humans more to the human level than to work level, and we get to know each other. And let's say if you have a meeting in person, if you do these icebreakers, people that are not comfortable talking, they might not open up, but being on a remote environment, they can write in chat and you can still learn something about them. And this makes us, everybody get involved and know each other. So I really enjoy that. So we get to show our pets or pictures of them or our lockdown mates and share activities we are doing during the lockdown, which usually in person meetings, you don't get these icebreakers, you don't get to know each other unless you go to talk one-on-one with somebody and share your experience. And on the personal level, I got to spend more time with my husband and my pets and skill up with Accenture courses available. As you know, they have a big library that they offer us, so we can pick whatever we like. So I'm working on my English skills and in my cloud skills. And as I told you, Accenture is a pet-friendly company, and even if our dogs start to bark or disturb in the meeting, that it's something, it's our new normal. So I really enjoy it, working remote nowadays.
That sounds really fun. I think that's really funny that they're pet friendly even in a remote environment. How many of you guys have pets, by the way? Awesome. Cool. My next question is I'll open it up to everyone actually. What do you enjoy the most about working in a remote role? I know Linda had just mentioned what she enjoys most, but Mike, can you just talk a little bit more about what do you enjoy?
Yeah, sure. A lot of what Linda said also resonates with me. The fact that you don't have to waste time on a commute, that you generally get a flexible schedule out of it. I take my dog out for walks at lunch, or if I'm just stuck on a problem and I can't get around it, I will take the dog out for a walk, and that usually helps unblock some things. And it's also, I think she mentioned, it's good to get heads down time. If you need to just disconnect from the, say you're busy on Slack and then just go work and solve a problem. No one can really interrupt you unless you let them. So that's great. It also, I Yeah, I mean, the downside, sorry, this is a little downside, is that when you work with people that you really enjoy, you don't get the chance to see them. Like, there's no softball league for remote employees. Like, my coworkers are all across the country. So that is the one thing that I miss. But, you know, we get a chance to connect online, and most companies are good. Stitch Fix pre-pandemic would get everyone together quarterly basis. So you still get a chance to interact with the humans on your team. So that is a workaround for the remote lack of social interaction. But no, mostly just the schedule and flexibility is fantastic, and the ability to live where you want.
Actually, as a downtown, I can even mention we miss the parties we have all together and things like gatherings. That is, but that's part of it.
Yeah, we're used to it, at least working remotely. Everyone else is really dying. Ugh.
No, not literally, but yeah, that's it sounds as if you guys do really miss some of the social interaction, at least, and you guys were getting some of it as well pre-COVID. So hopefully COVID ends soon and you guys can have like a normal life soon. Josh, can you add anything to what you enjoy when working remotely?
Yeah, I'll definitely agree that working remote before COVID happened is a lot different than working remote as a result of COVID. I've noticed a lot of people that were forced into this sort of remote work lifestyle as a result of COVID are struggling a lot more than people that were already used to it. I mean, for myself, I've been working remote pretty much off and on, but mostly on for about the past 7 years now. I took about a 2-year stint and worked in an office for a while. I didn't really like it as much as working remote, but so I was really used to it and was prepared for having to have your own structure, your own hobbies, your own sort of social network set up. It's really important that you have good relationships with people, and especially if you're working remote, you need to have a good network of friends. You need to have people that you're talking to, and you need to have hobbies and things like that. If you don't, it's really easy to kind of get drugged down and maybe get depressed, or, you know, start making bad decisions and not eating right and all that kind of stuff. But if you do, then working remote is the best thing out there because it allows you more time to focus on those sort of things. You don't have to work time spent where you're just maybe waiting for something to happen or waiting for a meeting to start, or, you know, up from your desk, walking into a conference hall and sitting down. I mean, that can take 10 or 15 minutes for everybody to assemble and that sort of thing. Working remote, I mean, I can spend that 10 or 15 minutes studying, you know, JavaScript or studying some sort of view concept that I didn't understand as well as I'd like to, or you know, reading about Betelgeuse and the explosion, you know, the supernova that was caused there. Like, those are all things that you can do on a day-to-day basis, and you can really structure your time around what's important to you. That's what I think I like the most about working remote, is the ability to structure my time around my projects and my goals, as well as what I'm doing for the company. I'm able to spend more time with my family. I'm able to, you know, focus on learning new things. In my case, I'm able to work on side projects as well. I mean, I'm getting ready to launch a website that don't think that I would have had the mental capacity to work on if I was going to an office every day and getting stressed out about some of that sort of work. It's also super helpful to be able to focus on what you're doing and not have those distractions, and not have, you know, people walking up and asking how things are going and asking about the weather and talking about all that sort of stuff. I mean, a little bit of that's great. And we do, as a company, structure time for that. We'll have, you know, meetups every couple weeks where it'll just be a social session where people will meet up and talk about their days. And that's exciting too, because we're 100% remote. as a company, not just now, but even before COVID. So I have coworkers that are all over the United States. You know, I get to hear about how things are going in DC. I get to hear about, you know, stuff that's happening in Texas. I get to hear about stuff that's happening in Oregon. I get to hear about stuff that's happening all over the United States. So it really gives you a global, not quite global, but more of like a national sort of feeling where you're getting, you're hearing about the human experience all over, and not just a hyper localized sort of thing. So I would say that I love absolutely everything about working remote, and it really fits well with my personality. But I would make sure that that's the case for you if you want to work remote, because for some people, they do love going into the office, and they do love that sort of office environment, and they love that constant socialization and constantly having people around. For me, I like being able to focus more on my own projects and my own personal development. So I would definitely recommend a remote if you're somebody like that.
Also, I would like to add something to all of it, as the guy says, being able to join all kind of meetups online makes it so easier, and you can attend quality talks or coding sessions that you are interested, that otherwise you will not be able to join. I'm here Google Developer Group lead and Women Tech Makers ambassador for the capital region. And before we had like 20, 30 people, 40 people maximum attending. When we had the DevFest, was like 100, 200 people. But being able to go remote, we have people joining us from all over the world, and we are able to share that resources with everybody and help everybody skill up. Before we was able to share that resources with only 20 people. Now we reach like even 1,000 people, which is unbelievable. And you can have speakers. We had speakers from Google that otherwise they will not be able to join us to share their knowledge with our community, which is great. And we have so many resources available for free, especially with the lockdown. There was such abundance that you had really to think, what should I learn? What I want to skill up, this or this? So there are many things that I love working remotely, studying remotely, living remotely. So I think even if we go back to our life as it was before, I will still continue to do meetups online or things like this. I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Yeah, I know, Linda, you have been very, very active with online meetups, and I've been to a lot of them, and they're really high quality. So I'd love to have her follow up with everyone with her GDG Capital Region meetup. And I've also been enjoying going to a lot of online meetups in different cities and just meeting a lot of different people due to circumstances of right now. I guess we're going to go into a Q&A. And then I have a question from Jake, and this can be for everyone. Would it be practical for someone who has never had a development job to start remote right out of the gate? So maybe we can start with Linda.
Yeah, it's what I already shared earlier. Just I started on my own years ago. I worked primarily with the PHP, but now it's come fading away. So I started on my own with the Free Code Camp, Albany in Code, Careers in Code. There are many ways to go, and Practicum now they have. Everybody starts to move to remote, or they are in process, or they are already online. Also, try to go to these meetups. There are so many things, so many people going. You can make connections. I know it's kind of difficult with the remote, but you can still follow up with people if you are interested. Now it's easier to connect on LinkedIn with people than ever. Before, in order to connect with somebody, will be more difficult to get, especially if they are in a certain position, will be more difficult to get in contact with them. Now you have a question, you ask somebody, everybody has more time for their own lives, so they give some time back to the community. Also, what helped me was I knew what was my weak point, so I had to really work on it. Was my technical English. If you don't have that problem, just skip, go ahead. But algorithms and how you call it on me is not coming. Sometimes that's my problem. And data structures are very important. You might get questions, especially depending in what positions you are willing to look into it. And go out there to any meetups. Everything is going on. Go and learn from others that already achieved what you want to achieve. Ask questions how you can achieve what they achieve. Of course, sometimes it's kind of difficult. I have a lot of people contacting me. Sometimes I don't have time to answer to all of them. So it's kind of frustrating even on my side because everybody gets excited and want to know your story. So I'm thinking actually to write an article to give more insights to people in this way. When somebody asks me, what should I do? Here is my journey. This is not a recipe. This doesn't mean that you do what I did. You will get what I get. Maybe you get faster than me. Don't get me wrong. Maybe it takes you longer. Just don't get frustrated. Just continue to do whatever you do. You will get there no matter what. But you have to put in the work.
Awesome. Mike?
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah.
I think I've seen a big shift recently, where jobs, it used to be the entry level, the more junior devs were hired in-house in the headquarter office. That has been changing slowly. I think we started experimenting with it last year, having remote junior engineers. And then with COVID, it's all like, we're all remote. So you have to figure it out. And I think it is certainly not a stretch at all to be applying for remote jobs. Because even if you start at a local company, you will most likely be remote at some point. So it's definitely worth considering remote and picking up any kind of skills that help you show that you are a good communicator and you'd be a valuable remote employee.
Awesome. Josh, do you have anything else to add on that question?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the exact same thing Mike has. For the longest time, if you were a junior developer, you had to be in the office for some reason, which didn't ever really make a lot of sense to me, especially now with COVID. Companies have had to adjust. I would say that it's 100% fine to be a junior developer and work remote. It will depend a lot on the business that you're working for. Some businesses structure themselves around remote work first, and then other businesses structure themselves more around like in the office. I've worked for places where if you weren't present, you might not know 100% of everything going on because they might not communicate that effectively. They might not do that sort of thing. But more and more, especially now with COVID and everything else, businesses are recognizing that that's not the best way to run things. You know, they need to structure more around remote first. They need to structure it in a way that that sort of information is disseminated to everybody. You don't just hear it if you happen to be in the room when somebody says it. Communication is getting a lot better. I mean, we've gone through a lot of tools over the years, but I'd say Slack is pretty much the best one so far that we've seen for a lot of those communications between Slack and Discord. So we have the ability to share video, we have the ability to share, text, like everything a lot easier and a lot faster through a huge number of different channels and everything else. So companies are getting about that sort of communication. And as long as they're at that level, junior developer or 20-year senior developer, you should still be able to work remote if that's what works best for you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for the advice for Jake, who's a newly minted junior developer. This next question, I think, would be perhaps our last question, and I think it's directed towards Linda. As a recent bootcamp grad, what can I do to ensure the interviewer doesn't think that I need any hand-holding?
What? Any hand-holding?
Hand-holding meaning they're not going to need like too much help in the role.
I think the best way to go is to ask questions when they assign you a project to work. More you know about it, more it helps you to craft a action plan. Another thing is if you know things, say you know. If you don't know, I think it's okay to say don't know and say I can pick it up. Or of course, I usually use my free time sometimes to skill up to be able to work in projects. But everybody has to adapt to their style life. This doesn't mean everybody has the time I have on my hands. If you have children and family and things, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to do that. But definitely be clearer. You can learn from others on the job, depending even on the company. I don't know if it's a smaller company and you have less people to work with and get help with. I think it will be a little bit more difficult. But always ask questions. I saw when I worked with the corporation here nearby, I see it when I work with Accenture, when I worked on with my clients, always asking questions help you. And don't be afraid to say you don't know. Nobody knows everything. I guess you can be the senior on something and there is always something that it's popping up today that it's new and you always have to skill up. So don't be afraid, but be willing to learn and put the time on it.
Awesome, thank you. I think also Don had a follow-up question, like how did you really convince the interviewer that as a recent boot camp grad, like you're ready for your role?
Your curiosity, showing your creativity, especially when the problem is here, I have experience working before, so it's kind of difficult. But usually what companies are looking for, they are the new ideas out of the box. Because yes, we did it always this way, but if we want to innovate, if we want creativity, we want to see another point of view. So this doesn't mean that if you are a recent grad, you don't have ideas. You can innovate, you can create the new product that will be the most successful in the world. Look at this disruption that Uber, Amazon, they created to the world in general, that before we had only stores, more brick and mortar, and now we shop online. Look at the Uber, they don't have any taxi and they disrupted the taxi. Don't be afraid that you are just a grad. You can have a lot of creativity and bring a lot of disruption to our day-to-day life and innovation.
Thank you so much, Linda. I think that was really good advice, especially for people who are more new to software development. And with Hack Upstate and Careers in Code, our goal is to really get more people into software and not be afraid to really jump to their next challenge. Awesome. So I know that Linda, Josh, and Mike will be around practically on Discord and on Slack. So if you guys have any more questions for them, you guys can ping them. And also, if you guys do want to hop on to another call, there is a Discord voice channel for you guys, talk-remote panel. Practically, their handles are the same as their names right now. Especially Josh, he calls himself Gix. But thank you guys. Thank you so much for this wonderful panel. I think we learned a lot, and I also learned a lot about you guys as well. Thanks, even though I've known you for so many years.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Cool. Next up, we have Tom Monks. Tom Monks has been in IT for 10 years as a PM and recently transitioned to a software development role and has gotten involved in several Tech for Good projects through Code for Syracuse and the COVID Accelerator. He loves technology, coding, and continuous improvement, and is driven by the idea of creating software solutions that solve challenging problems and positively impacting the world. Today, he'll be talking about starting and leading Farm to Community, which is a local social impact project. He's extremely smart because he actually recorded his presentation, but he is here live to field questions towards the end. So I'm going to play his presentation. Wait one moment. Can you guys hear that?
No.
Okay. I have to stop sharing. One moment. Jesse, I'm having issues just playing the video. Would you be able to play the video for us?
Yeah, I can do that. I think, Jennifer, one thing to try real quick, when you go to try to share your screen, in the bottom left-hand corner, do you see a button that says share computer sound? Just try that real quick. Sorry, Tom and everyone. We'll get this figured out in just a second.
Yes, but I think I have to download an extra thing in order to
Okay. Yeah,
be
no worries.
able
And in
to use
fact,
it.
if it's not too much trouble, yeah, I can do that, Jennifer. If you can send the link in the Zoom chat for everyone as well, in case they want to reference it afterwards, and so that I can access it too. So just send it in the Zoom chat and I'll play it on my end.
Cool. Here we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, everyone, just give us 2 seconds. Just going to make sure I have all this up.
And while Jesse is working on that, I just want to let everyone know that we do have a silent contest of sorts going on. We plan to award a $25 gift prize to whoever we feel has the best virtual background. As I've been popping in and out of the presentations, I have been looking at your virtual backgrounds. I want to give everyone an opportunity to participate. If they would like to. You might have to jump out of the Zoom call, activate your virtual background, and jump back in order for us to see it, which is just fine. But you have until about I'd say about 11 o'clock tonight before I hop off, and then after that I will be tallying up all of my top contenders, and you'll know who the winner is by tomorrow morning.
Perfect. Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Sorry, there's a truck passing behind me. Sorry. All right, I'm going to play this for just a second, and I'll ask if anyone can hear it. 1 second.
Hi, everyone. Thank you
Yeah, we can hear it.
Can you guys hear that? Excellent. All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Running this Hack Upstate 15 lightning talk. My name is Tom Monks, and I'll be talking about some of the lessons I've learned from leading a local social impact project called Farm to Community. If you'd like to follow along and access the links in the slides, you can open them at the bit.ly link listed below and on the next slide. So a little bit of background to start out. I'm majored in computer science, but spent the majority of my career as an IT project manager. A couple of years ago, I realized that I really enjoy coding and creating meaningful, impactful software solutions. And I decided to transition to a software development role. I'm really interested in the possibilities of using software and technology to create a scalable impact that you couldn't do without technology, and using technology and software for social good. About a year ago, I got involved in Code for Syracuse and got some experience on a couple social impact projects there. And then when things got serious with the pandemic in March of this year, I became really interested to see how I could use technology to help make a meaningful impact with that whole situation. So this was the time when restaurants were being shut down. The food supply chain was being totally disrupted. And we had farmers dumping thousands of gallons of milk and plowing their crops under. And then at the same time, we're seeing stories on the news about people waiting in line for hours at the food banks just to get the food that they need to get through the week. So I just really connected with the food issue because I hate seeing food go to waste, and I really hate to see people going hungry. So around the same time, I saw an idea posted on Facebook by a local farmer who I didn't know, but lives just a couple miles down the road from me. She decided to buy some eggs being sold by another farmer. They were selling dirt cheap, like 30 cents a dozen, because they were unable to sell them, and then donate them to our local school meal delivery program. So that idea was just really inspiring to me, and I think a lot of other people, because it was helping to prevent good food from going to waste, providing some financial support for the farmers who were struggling to make ends meet, and then getting that food to local families who were also struggling and also use some help. So at that time, I reached out to see if I could help organize things and help build on the idea and keep it going and make it repeatable, so we could continue to help more farmers and more families in our community. So we were able to form a small, passionate team who was interested in contributing to the cause. So in the months since then, we've worked together on a weekly basis to raise funds and use them to purchase local surplus farm foods for local families in need. We've raised almost $5,000 through a GoFundMe campaign, a t-shirt fundraiser, and more recently a bottle and can drive. We procured local products such as eggs, milk, cheese, and produce, and got them distributed to 270 local families through the South Louis School District meal delivery program. And we developed a voucher program where we donated $20 a month over the summer to 33 families in need from our backpack program that they could use to purchase local farm foods from farmers at the farmers market. We procured and packaged local maple syrup to be delivered along with the pancakes that the school was delivering to the families. And here are some pictures of the local surplus milk that we purchased and had packaged at the local creamery and then donated to local families. So the first key takeaway for me is that execution can be more powerful than ideation. At first, I had the impression that in order to make an impact, that I needed to be this brilliant app designer and come up with some sort of revolutionary idea to have an impact myself. But in reality, I found that ideas can come from unexpected sources, and I found this excellent idea, posted by somebody down the road on Facebook. What I did that I think really had the greatest impact was not to bring my brilliant ideas, but more just bringing some basic project management skills to the table. So that helped me bring together the right people and just set up a weekly meeting, track action items, and keep things rolling and help us make a sustainable impact. So organizing the small team that was really passionate about the cause and willing to stick with it on a weekly basis really enabled us to continue making an impact over the months that followed. The next takeaway for me was the benefit of being involved in a supportive community. In early April, just before I started Farm to Community, I got involved in a Slack-based community called COVID Accelerator, which is like a startup incubator for solutions around coronavirus. And there's been really a lot of great things about it. So there were many helpful workshops on designing and launching social impact solutions. They had different workshops almost on a weekly basis, which I really learned a lot from. It helped connect me with additional volunteers across the country who were interested in contributing to the cause and working with me to help figure out how we could take this idea further and scale it further, many of which I'm still in touch with. It gave me access to experts and mentors in nearly every field that I needed help with, be it marketing, programming, designing, or entrepreneurship. They had field-specific channels in the Slack where I could just jump in and get immediate access to 100 or more people from that field and ask them questions and get help on anything in pretty much any area that I was working on. Another takeaway for me was how quickly we could rapidly prototype our solution using pre-existing tools and web apps. I kind of came in with the expectation that I would be coding some small part of a big, complicated web app. However, we're able to accomplish a lot just using pre-existing tools. So we used GoFundMe for our fundraising, Slack and Zoom for collaboration, Facebook for marketing and community building, Zapier to automate welcome emails and Slack invitations. We use Notion just to throw together quick web pages to get information out. And we created a basic app in Airtable, which let us allow the vendors to submit the coupons that they received using their smartphone, send them to us, and then help us track them all the way through to writing a check to reimburse them for the coupons that they accepted from people in the community. I did actually write the website for farmtocommunity.com in HTML and Bootstrap though, so that did make me feel happy that I got to code something for the project. Finally, I feel like trying to do a little good in my community has just come back to me in so many amazing and unexpected ways that I never could have predicted. So it's taught me a lot about and given me a lot of experience in social impact and marketing and team building, and just given me a lot of confidence that I can create something impactful and sustainable. It helped connect me with a great new freelancing opportunity, which is something that I've wanted to get into for quite a while. Helped me connect with this small startup in Boston who's working to build a more resilient food supply chain there. And I've got a coding side gig going with them now, which I'm really enjoying and super excited about. It helped me get me all kinds of exposure, including 2 local newspaper articles, an interview in a COVID-19 specific blog, and an interview on a Tech Republic podcast called Dynamic Developer with Bill Detweiler, which I still can't believe happened. Above all, it helped connect me with so many like-minded people across the globe through COVID Accelerator, and also locally right in my community. People that they're just amazing people that I never would have met otherwise. And they're all very passionate about making a difference with COVID-19 and helping to have a positive social impact with people in need. And many of those people I think I'll be connected with for a long time. So thank you very much for attending my talk. I hope you got some value out of it. If you have any questions, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom, for recording his presentation. He is here live. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, please type them in the chat. And while you guys are typing in the chat, Christy Pressler, if you can make Christy a co-host. And Christy, if you can just get set up while we get any questions from the audience. I don't see any questions on my end. I know Tom is going to be on Discord and on Slack for a little bit today. So if you have any questions for him, please ping him. And you guys have a dedicated channel called Talk-Farm to Community if you guys would like to use that. But thank you so much, Tom. For those who for you guys, for those who are working on the social impact prize, I think Tom is a really great person to just bounce ideas off of. He's really involved and really interested in civic tech and civic impact. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure thing. Thanks, guys.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Sweet. Okay. All right. So we're chatting about design technology. So I almost called this talk why design technology, but I ended up calling it what is design technology, only because most people haven't really heard of design technology. And actually, as someone who's basically been working as a design technologist most of my career, I only found out about this title about 6 months ago. So as is typical in our field, names are ever evolving. People have 6 different names for the same process. But design technology is essentially one answer to a very common problem. So anyone that's worked on a team with designers and developers know that we have a lot of trouble talking to each other, trying to figure out how to collaborate with each other, trying to figure out why our process very often ends up broken. So often you end up with like a pixel perfect design that the designer has slaved over for hours and hours. It gets passed over to development, and they build it based off of what they see, without necessarily asking the designer any questions, and then return their final product back to the designer, who looks at it and says, you left out the 6 most important things on this. What's going on here? So that cycle often ends up being very broken. And in different ways for every company that I've worked at, but it's honestly been broken pretty much every place I've worked. And so design technology is intended to sit in between design and development. So it's really a hybrid. It's a way, the place that they overlap. So my working definition, and this does keep changing because things are always evolving, is that design technology is the intersection of design and development, where design iterations are fueled by code, and engineering processes are focused on impeccable UX. So really taking design processes out of static tools and moving them into the browser and into code, and then taking engineering processes and focusing them towards UX, which is not to say that you're not focused still on a lot of the technical implementation pieces, but it's starting with the UX piece of it when we're solutioning for problems. So why would you do this? Oh, I lost it. There we go. I lost a slide. So what do you need to do in order to actually have design technology happening on your team? So it's important to know that design technology is not just like, oh, we'd hired a design technologist, we're good to go, everything's going to be so much easier now. Really implementing design technology as a team is about a mind shift for everyone on the team, so designers and developers. So it helps pull the design process farther into the build process, because design technologists are actually implementing a lot of the like front end UI. But it also is important that the designers and developers and design technologists all work together to create a shared language that helps them communicate the problems that they're having as they're trying to solve for different issues, that uses both engineering and development language and design language. So it sort of is a place for everybody to lean in to the skills that of the other teammates and learn a little bit from each other in order to collaborate a lot better. So I know that like leaning into things that make us uncomfortable sounds like why in the world would we do this? But there's a bunch of really positive things that actually come out of that. So a few positive things. So design outcomes, first off, it pulls the decision-making process of design into the code base so that when developers are trying to make decisions, it's accessible. Designers are then also not having to write excessive documentation about all of this stuff because it actually exists inside of the code base. This is just an example of like a style sheet that's got all of the color like options for the app lined out. This is a very base level one, but it essentially says like, okay, here's like, if I'm a developer and I'm looking for a blue, I can be like, oh wait, okay, you know, instead of all the different blues that exist in the world, I have 5 options, which one's closest to the one that I actually need. It makes it simpler. Same thing from a rapid prototyping standpoint. When you've solidified a lot of the framework and the baseline for what the designs look like in an application, it lets us go from wireframe to it like actual interactive prototype much more quickly, which lets the client or like the business take a look at what's actually going to be built and kind of iron out some of those problems much earlier on in the process, because nobody likes having to rebuild the project they just slaved over as soon as it's done. At least I don't. So positive development outcomes as well. So it's not just for designers. As I mentioned, having the styles, having the design principles built into the actual style sheets and the components of the project means that it's much easier for developers to like make some sort of basic granular design decisions that happen on a day-to-day basis as you're building out something. Inevitably, all the questions didn't get answered in the design spec. Like, wait, what is this supposed to do? What's the spacing supposed to be? All those little things. When all of the rules and the framework that the designers are using to make those decisions actually exist in the code, you don't have to go ask the designer necessarily. You can just look and use the variable, the SAS variable that's attached to whatever spacing, right? So you're like, oh, well, this is kind of like a medium-sized space. Well, I'll just use space medium, and it'll match and fit with the rest of the system of the application. So the other really cool thing about this is process outcomes. So I've worked on a ton of different enterprise level projects where it's very waterfall, right? Like, so you start with like, here's the problem, the designer creates a solution, and then they slave over the solution for a while, and then they pass it over to the development team, who then looks at it, sort of vets it out, passes it back, all these different sort of back and forth. Eventually it gets built 6 months later down the line. But with design technology, you actually can all work at the same time. So it lets us start at a baseline of, we have a wireframe for approximately what we want to be doing. We have a data model for what kind of information we need. So then design technology and designers can get working on the like front end UI. The front end developers can be working on where the data needs to go and how it needs to connect with the UI. And the back end developers can be pulling in like any data that needs to be created, any new APIs that need to be created. Everyone can work on the same project at the same time because we've agreed at the places that the different pieces meet. We've agreed what that's going to look like, and we can just move forward. And it makes creating, a 6-month project can be a 3-month project, which is huge, right? For large level apps, being able to iterate and move things forward. So this was a very quick overview. I wanted to talk super quickly about some like further reading if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. Sort of some like meatier pieces for things you can look at related to design technology and working this way. And then my contact information is in here too. So one of the first things is Atomic Design by Brad Frost. This is a really cool resource that just kind of approaches how to break down like a website or like an application into its sort of like very granular components that then build up into larger pieces. It's a really great way to sort of wrap your head around how web design works, sort of from a philosophical standpoint. And it's really easy to read. You can order the book. He's got a book, but you can also read the whole thing on the website. Another really cool one is, so this is a really awesome typography resource, which is like, I know a lot of developers hear the word typography and like run for the hills. This is actually designed for developers. He's he has a really fun like way of writing, and is very like, it's a really easy resource to kind of wander through and get your head wrapped around typography. Because frankly, web layout is 80% typography and spacing. So 8-point grids, spacing. It's just a really cool way of like wrapping your head around how that kind of works. And then this is one option for a way to structure your SaaS projects. So like structuring your SaaS, like styles get out of control when you're working on really large applications. And that's one of the things that design technology offers, is like a much stronger structure for how to actually approach styling projects. Yeah, and then the last thing in here, these last two are fun Chrome extensions that are useful for kind of digging into how pages are laid out when you're just looking at the web. But yeah, that is all I have. If you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christy, for the presentation. I'm going to share the presentation spreadsheet so that you guys can have access to all the links that she provided. Awesome. And I know that Christy, I actually have a question myself.
Sure.
As you guys are typing them, I know that you started off as a designer. Can you talk a little bit more about how you started off as a designer, then started coding, and then now have this role as a design technologist?
Yeah, for sure. So I started out, I went to art school, got interested in technology from a design perspective, figured out I really wanted to be able to build things that I was designing, and wanted to be able to better understand what I was designing for. Worked my way through a whole bunch of like development courses, and ended up actually getting my first role as a front-end developer, where I also got to do a lot of the UI design. So like I said, I've been sort of unofficially by different names working as a design technologist most of my career. But it's sort of that hybrid of understanding sort of the design layout pieces, but also the code pieces, and being able to kind of put it together, and frankly, communicate with everybody on both teams, right? Because often designers and developers are on different teams, and I end up kind of being a liaison in between the two.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer. Appreciate it. Guys, do you have any other questions? I don't see any questions in our chat. I know that Christy, I know that you will be online afterwards on Discord and on Slack. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to message her. And if you guys do need a voice channel in Discord, you guys have the Talk-Design Technology channel. Awesome.
See you guys.
Thank you so much, Christy.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye.
Christy.
Awesome. So right now we are giving our local tech meetups an opportunity to share with you guys what they do and how you guys can get involved. So welcome to all the meetups who have joined today. Today we have Women in Machine Learning Data Science, Code for Syracuse, Women Coding, Community Data Group, Salt City Code, Open Hack, and Salesforce Meetup. So a lot of meetups today. And today, I guess I'll start with Wimble DS. If Amanda and Ashley, if you guys can unmute, or if you guys need to share your screen. Let's talk a little bit more about what you guys do. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks Hack Upstate for having us. So we run, Ashley and I run the local chapter of Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, which is a global organization that provides workshops and speaker series, and the goal is to promote voices of women and non-binary individuals in a tech space, which often, as I can see from the faces in front of me, often is dominated by men. And so we look to kind of tip the scales of who is speaking at organization events, who and provide a safe space for women and non-binary individuals in a technical space. I'm Amanda D'Arcangelo. I'm one of the co-organizers of the Syracuse chapter. I'm also a data engineer for the city of Syracuse. So that's kind of my background and where I come from to support and run these events. And I'll turn it over to Ashley to introduce herself.
Hi guys, I'm Ashley Jingleski. Like Amanda mentioned, I'm a co-organizer for WMLDS in Syracuse. I'm a data analyst by trade, but I'm super into data science, and it's kind of nice to have a small community in Syracuse where we can, dive into different data science and machine learning topics. And then for like the types of meetups, like Amanda mentioned, we have different workshops. So whether that's like running through code or working with either like Python or R for different activities, we kind of look to have things like that for our meetups.
Yeah, we also do speaker sessions. And so some of the speaker sessions we've had in the past have included Adria Finch, who is the previous Chief Innovation Officer for the city of Syracuse. We've also had Martha Grabowski, who is a professor up at Lemoyne and teaches, very technical data classes, and gave this really amazing presentation about implementation of different machine learning and drone technologies using data in firefighter applications, which was really cool. So we try to, span the gamut of speaker sessions, of having all sorts of speakers. We've even had some technical recruiters come in and speak to people about, what they look for in resumes and how they reach out to people for job positions. So we meet on Tuesdays. We've taken a bit of a hiatus during COVID, but we are launching our first virtual meetup on this coming Tuesday, October 6th. And that will be, you can find that on Meetup. So the virtual link and everything. That will be, I'll turn it over to Ashley again to kind of explain, because she will be running that workshop.
Yeah, so that's going to be kind of working with Google Collaboratory with a Jupyter notebook and running through some live code for that. So, but yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we
guys.
hope to see everyone there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. You guys do have a WOML DS channel in the Discord. And feel free as co-hosts to just share anything that you guys need, but everything should be in that spreadsheet. Awesome. So next up is Code for Syracuse. Jason and Ryan, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Ryan. I'm one of the organizers for Code for Syracuse, and Jason's got a little presentation, but I'm just going to give a high-level overview of what is Code for Syracuse. So Code for Syracuse is a meetup in which we work with nonprofits and other organizations in the community to help them solve technological problems they're having to help them further their missions. Yeah, that's pretty much what's on that slide. Nice. So it's me, Jason, and Jennifer who run it. Jason and Jennifer do, and Tom too. Sorry. And Jason and Jennifer and Tom do most of the work, and I just advise on technical things for the most part. But and occasionally we have other people that come in and help with certain projects and assist in certain ways. But that's we meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month, and we've been doing virtual meetups during the past couple months, or we're doing virtual meetups during COVID and all that stuff. So yeah, Jason, go for it.
All right, cool. So yeah, some of the projects that we've worked on so far have been revamping the Syracuse Tenants Union website, making that website with Squarespace. Tom Monks helped lead the website team with that, and Amanda D'Arcangelo led the data visualization using Tableau to show current codes complaints. We also partnered with Cornell's Peace Lab, helping them with the documentation for their COVID mapping project. And right now, we're starting to work on the Worker Center of CNY website, revamping that. So it's just a range of, different things available. If folks are wanting to contribute a lot of time, we would love that. But if folks just want to help out with individual tasks, we usually have a Trello board that people can jump on. And we're part of the National Code for America group. And it is really nice having other teams and other leads that we can partner with and collaborate with. So it's not just us here in Syracuse. There's the Beta NYC in New York City that we partnered with, and also Code for Buffalo. So it's really just a neat group that we're working alongside. And thank you again, Jennifer and Jesse and Hack Upstate, for letting us present about this.
Thank you so much, Code for Syracuse. Next up, we have Women in Coding with Annalena. Christy is still on the call. Dana and I are facilitating, so we're saying hi. But Annalena, can you introduce yourself? And
yeah,
Jason, can you?
There we go.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Annalena Davis. And along with 4 others, run Women in Coding. It was started about 4 years ago by 2 women who've actually moved from the area, but Zoe and Ksenia, if you guys know them. The goal of our meetup is to just get more women into this various fields in with coding and technology. So we meet the second Saturday of every month. We've done a variety of things. For a little while, we were kind of doing an open office hours style setup, but we've shifted since COVID to more of a teaching various classes each month. And they range from beginners, HTML and CSS, or JavaScript, to accessible web development. We've brought in some guest speakers here and there to teach Arduino, using Arduinos or things like that, Python. So yeah, if you want to find us, you can find us on Meetup, on the Syracuse Software Development Meetup group, and find out what our next class is. Right now, the group of us are actually meeting in 2 weeks to plan out the next few months. So we don't have classes lined up right now, but you can check there and find out what our next meetups are. And if anybody's interested in joining us as organizers, we're always looking for a few more. Especially, we canceled this month, which would be next weekend, because Jennifer and Dana have been very busy with Hack Upstate. So if anybody has any questions, find me on Discord. Thanks, Jennifer and everybody, for having us.
Thank you so much, Annalena. Thank you. We appreciate it. Next up, we have Mark from Community Data Group.
Hi, my name is Mark King, and I am representing the Community Data Group. And just make sure I'm unmuted here. Great. Okay. And we're basically an initiative of the Central New York Community Foundation. And I like to describe the data group as a group that navigates the intersection between data and the public good. Because you have data and community in the name there. We tend to focus on issues with data that are relevant to, for example, the nonprofit world, to government sectors that address public needs, that kind of thing. So who is it for? Well, the data group tends to have a lot of different kinds of people there, right? You have people who are just interested in data. You have people who are interested in, making the community better in some way. You have people from nonprofits, whether they just, work for a nonprofit and are interested in leveraging data better. Maybe they're data analysts for nonprofits. So you might have, quite a few people from nonprofits there. You have people from the government sectors that work very closely with nonprofits and that work in the sphere of the public good, right? So you have representatives from local government. I see some of our attendees here today, who's really great. And yeah, and pretty much anybody else who just wants to come and cares about data and making the community better. We meet on Fridays at 8:30 for an hour. Sometimes it goes over a little, but and it's 8:30 a.m. by the way, just to clarify. So we do meet on Zoom though. So if you are in an office or something, a lot of people through their work, get this is just part of what they do, right? They just come to the data group because it's a really excellent opportunity to connect. You know, if you work with tech and you want to not only, you know, hear about the issues, right, but maybe also get involved with some local government agency or nonprofit, it's a really excellent way to network and to meet a lot of people. Typically, we rotate between 3 types of meetings. In a model month, I guess you could say, we would have 2 meetings of the speaker series. Sometimes it's only 1, but we really shoot for 2. And those are just presentations by guest speakers from local nonprofits or government agencies. They focus on their use of data. We have a community data media group, which is, it's kind of like a book club, but it's not just about books. So we call it the media group. It could be about podcasts, it could be about an article, you know, a journal article or something like that, a chapter from a book, something like that. So you know, it could be anything. We actually have done quite a few podcasts, quite a few journal articles. It's so it's great. It's kind of like a seminar. You know, if you've been in a kind of a higher level academic seminar, you know, it's where you kind of got past the whole big classroom experience and it's just 7 or 8 people around the table talking about issues. Kind of feels like that a little bit, except not quite so top down. But we have that. That's usually once a month. And then we also have tooling sessions. And what I mean by that is it's a learning session of some sort. We focus on some sort of technology or tool that you can use to help use data more effectively and analyze data more effectively. We've been dealing for the last, I think the next meeting will be our 11th month of Tableau Public specifically. So we've been working on Tableau for a really long time. And I think we'll probably continue to work on that in the future. So if you're interested in learning how to use Tableau, I would highly recommend coming to those. You also get access to the Google Drive, which allows us to share older like slideshows from on Tableau. So if you want to catch up, you can just go through that and, see what you missed and then come in all ready to go. But it's very, it's low pressure, great opportunity to meet people. You don't have to code along with us. In fact, on Zoom, it's a little difficult, but, in person, sometimes people would do that more. But yeah, I would really recommend coming and checking it out, especially if you want to maybe get involved in the public sector a little more. And if you are interested, you can email me, and I'm going to put my email address in the chat. And what I'll do is I'll add you to the mailing list and send you the Zoom link.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much, Mark. And also everyone, as I mentioned, in the spreadsheet, you guys should have all the information on how you guys can connect with these organizers and also how you can join their groups either on Meetup or through their newsletter. Awesome. So next up, we have Salt City Code.
Hey everyone, my name is Karen, and I'm not actually a Meetup. I run a podcast, and what I like to do is try and get people within the Syracuse tech community, or even surrounding tech communities if I can, and just kind of find out how everybody got into tech, how they started out, what their interests were, but my goal ultimately is to show not only women, but young girls, young kids, minorities, just everyone, that there's room for everyone in the technology community. It is prominently a male, field, but I see more and more women making their way in, and that's kind of what I'd like to, see happen. So right now with COVID, obviously I'm doing everything via Zoom or some type of chat. Actually, I've been using Zencaster lately. It's a little easier because I can have everybody has their own track, so it's a little easier for editing. I have taken a hiatus from that for a little bit, but we have a Calendly that you can sign up to record a session. I would love to just sit and chat with anybody. Usually it's typically an hour and a half. We cover a lot of topics. We cover what your job is, how you got in, where you work, if you're remote, if you're Syracuse based, if you're not Syracuse based. So yeah, I'd love to chat with anybody that would like to talk about what they do. We've been in different areas. I've had Mike's been on with Salesforce. Annalena, I still have to get your episode edited. It's been crazy. I'm having an office built. So between that and now that I'm working and everything else, it's been absolutely mind-racking, but I like doing it. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Corinne. And I know
Thanks.
that in the spreadsheet as well, she does have the probably the calendar link, so you guys can schedule a time to speak with her. So please schedule a time with her so that you can be on the Salt City podcast. Awesome. And next up, we have Open Hack with Mike.
Hey. Yeah, Open Hack is a meetup that I've been running since April of 2014. It is a monthly get together. It's the idea when I started it was there was not really a place for me in the tech meetup scene. There was a lot of like .NET groups. There were a couple of things that I wasn't interested in. So this was to be a very low pressure, casual technology meetup. And I really wanted to gather a friendly group of developers to bounce ideas off of. And it's over the last, however many years, that's kind of what it's become. It's a place where you can bring and I'll discuss the before times and then what we're doing currently. But in the old days, it was a place you could bring something you've been working on. You can bring a problem you're having with JavaScript. You can use the meetup as a way to connect with other developers, just to gripe about JavaScript, CSS, whatever is bothering you at the moment. And it was great. It's been a great outlet for building community and getting like-minded individuals together. I've seen folks get hired for jobs by connections they made at OpenHack. One of the density people used to say this was their recruiting budget, was just to come and hang out at OpenHack and find new local developers. So that's been the goal the whole time, is just to get people together. The secret sauce to OpenHack is making everyone stand in a awkward circle and do introductions. So you all kind of connect at that point. And then we used to have sandwiches before we went virtual. So that was kind of the selling point, is to get people involved that way. But things change. We're in pandemic times, and we've tried a couple different things. So we're doing virtual meetups now. We had a happy hour last month, which was great, but I think we'll go back to virtual for the winter months, where we are doing more show and tell. You kind of show up to a Zoom chat. If you have something to show off, that's great. If not, just hang out and have casual conversations. And we've also done lightning talks in the past too. So if anyone has something they'd like to bring, we do them on the second Tuesday of every month, and they're run through the Syracuse Developer Meetup group. So sign up there and hear about Open Hacks in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. As you see in the chat, a lot of people miss the sandwiches. So hopefully this ends soon so we can have more sandwiches. Next up is Mike from Salesforce Meetup.
Hey, thanks, Jen. Yeah, my name is Mike DeMaria. I run the Salesforce Developers User Group in Syracuse. We are a kind of an independent, semi-affiliated group with Salesforce. It is not run by them. They do not control the editorial. I'm just a Salesforce customer. I give them a whole bunch of money, for my licenses, and all of us meet together to talk about Salesforce. We gear primarily towards builders and crafters on the platform. So not necessarily the end users, but administrators, developers, programmers. And we talk about Salesforce. We talk about our experiences, upcoming releases. Every time they release something new, and they have a new release 3 times a year, we have a meeting and we talk about what's coming down. We do it hands-on meetings, hands-on demonstrations. We pull in experts as well. Because now that everything's been virtualized, we've been able to actually get people from all over the world attending our meetings, including people from Salesforce themselves, where they actually came in and showed us some of the new stuff they were building. we've we've gone fully virtual this year. We're probably going to do all virtual next year as well. So differentiation of geography is a little bit less important, but there are groups across all of upstate New York. Rochester has 2 groups, Buffalo has a group, Albany has a group as well. And we all meet, we talk, we figure out what what works, what doesn't, we complain, the standard stuff. The one nice thing is because Salesforce is very appreciative of the community, we have the ability to give away a lot of swag, which is really great. So over the past year, we have given away literally thousands of dollars of swag, including things as relatively trivial as little mascot plushies, as well as more impressive things like certification vouchers. So we've given away Salesforce certified vouchers that have saved community members up to $400 on those exams. We meet about, our group meets about every other month, give or take, but there are virtual meetups literally all the time. There are hundreds of these groups across the world. And so we greatly encourage people to come and any of the specialized things like developer admin, or go into a little bit more vertical industries. There's groups for nonprofits, for women in tech, for the insurance industry. And there's a whole bunch of different groups out there. And now if you want to find more info, I'll be speaking in about 20 minutes about getting into Salesforce, or you could come to our site at syracusedevelopers.com.
Right. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys, for introducing your meetups. I know that we have about 8 minutes to the next meetup. So, Jesse, we're going to try to do this if we can do this. We're going to try to do some breakout rooms just for like 5 to 6 minutes. Jesse, can you start just like automating breakout rooms for like maybe like 5 people or 4 to 5 people in a room?
Yep. So do you want me to create them manually, Jennifer, or do you want me to just automatically have people?
I think automatically. I think it should, yeah, automatically. There's enough organizers to spread it out, and organizers and everyone in these like take a look at this chat take a look at the chat for questions that you guys can answer, but you guys don't have to talk about these questions, like answer these questions when you guys are networking. You guys can talk about whatever.
All right, so this is our kind of first trying this too. So I'm about to assign 20 participants in 5 breakout rooms. And so there's gonna be 4 people per room. So I'm gonna create the rooms and everyone's gonna go to it. And hopefully all the meetup organizers don't end up in the same one, but we'll see. All right, gonna break them off. And so see you in the breakout rooms. All right, so now everyone should have got a notification and you can go and network in these little rooms. So let's try it out.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, guys. Where am I? Is anyone still in the main channel with me? I don't think I got assigned to one.
I'm still in the main channel with you.
Huh, it looks like.
It looks like you're, can you hear me, Jesse?
Yep, I can hear you. I just
Okay.
wonder why. It looks like Dana, you and Melissa and Mike all got assigned to breakout room 5.
Right.
Yeah, let's say we have some people.
I think you have to stay out because, well, no, you don't have to stay out, but I think you get to hop in and out as you want.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so if you want to, yeah, I think I can go to any one. I think that it's assigned for you guys.
Okay, all right, I'll go in now.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, it looks like a couple of our Pixel 3 XL and Danvers G. You're in breakout room. Let's see. Oh, okay. I think they're going now. So I'm going to head back to the breakout room.
All right, guys, awesome. So thank you for the meetup organizers for introducing themselves. We'll be sharing that link, that spreadsheet link with all participants at the end as well. If you guys want to continue speaking with the meetup organizers, each meetup does have a voice channel on Discord. So please check in there, or you guys can also ping the organizers on Discord or Slack and learn about how you can be involved in their next meetup. Awesome, cool. So next up we have Melissa and Josh. Dana, could you introduce Melissa and Josh for us? Awesome. I can actually do it myself. Melissa is a research engineer for emerging technologies and is a virtual reality tech lead at the Raymond Corporation. In her daily job, she works directly with Unity developers on creating new features for the award-winning Raymond virtual reality simulator. In her free time, she enjoys watching hackathons and is a past winner of Upstate as well. So I'm very excited to have her. Josh Morris is a winner of the eye tracking category at the MIT Reality Hack. He says that that's his claim to fame, but I think he's more than that. He is a father and he's a teacher. I vividly remember him at one of the JavaScript meetups. He was a very good speaker. So today they will be providing tips for beginners interested in getting started with game development in a rapid prototype environment like a hackathon. So welcome, Melissa and Joshua.
Thank you for that, Jen. I'm Joshua Maris, as Jen introduced me. And Melissa is here also, although I don't hear her.
Oh, yeah, your slides are first, so I'm here.
So I'm actually a systems administrator by day. By night, I wish I could say I was a vigilante, but I do goofy little things like build some little game-like sketches in P5, which is a JavaScript library you may have heard of. But if not, you can check out openprocessing.org, and you can learn about how to make really simple graphics from primitives in that. I am very, very interested in the virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, extended reality. And I was actually a first-time hackathon participant, and I was so amazed that I got to participate in the MIT hackathon. And I actually managed to be part of a winning team, and I still talk to my teammates at least a couple times a month about what they're up to. Some projects that I have managed to create in a very short amount of time, and you'll be linked to this presentation, so you'll actually be able to click these links later, but I made a clone of a game called Agario, where you guide a cell around eating food and other smaller cells, and it's a survival game. I created a typing practice game to show my kids what computer games were like back in my day on the Apple IIes. If you remember learning typing on an Apple IIe, it was very much like the games that you got to practice in when you learned your lesson. And I also made a game called Santa Drop, and that is the closest I've come to making a game on my own. And it's really just a little interactive sketch, but I can show you that later. I'll link it in the Discord chat. And this is my winning team. I managed to meet two of those ladies in line at the hackathon, just talking about the things that we were interested in doing and building, talking about things that we had posted on our own portfolios online. And so Jennifer on the right there, and Rebecca, they were just standing in line talking about how it was their first hackathon, and just talking with them made me feel really good about being there at my first hackathon. So the links there will also show you our project on the web. And some tips about, especially your first time at a hackathon, trying to create something in a group of people that probably you've just met and probably you share a lot of very broad interests with, that you may not feel like you have the skills, but you've wanted to learn how to do things for a long time. Collaboration was key. It's hard to share those files, the model, images, levels, things like that. You've got to get all of that together onto one machine to test it out. You've got to use your talents, but you also kind of need to be humble. And also you've got to use skills that you might not expect to need. So you may be troubleshooting hardware at some point. You may find that you're debugging someone's code. One person wrote the code and they can't figure out why X, Y, Z doesn't work. So you've got to be the one to debug it right on the spot. So pair coding really comes in handy. And then you want to focus on what the core of your product is going to be, and then only add what's necessary. So you just want to build the things you need to be able to demonstrate your core ideas.
Okay, and then so as Jennifer mentioned at the beginning, I'm emerging tech engineer and VR tech lead, and past winner of Hack Upstate. So I wore that shirt today. And I went to Lemoyne College, so local to where normally this hackathon is held. And I study physics and chemistry, so also a self-taught programmer. What I made at that hackathon, I'm wondering if the sound will actually work, but it was a spatial synthesizer. So basically in 3D, you could pick up objects and shake them around and they would make different noises based on the object. And let's see, can you guys hear that at all?
Yeah, Melissa, I don't think it works for co-hosts, unfortunately, so I don't think we'll be able to hear it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. But like, if you want to watch the link later, you can kind of see, you know, you can pick up different objects in this game, and like if it's a keyboard, it'll make like a synthesizer kind of noise, and when you shake it, it'll change what that synthesizer noise sounds like. And if you pick up like this mouse, that makes like a mouse clicking noise and things like that. So we made it as just like a fun little sandbox sort of game, because a lot of us in the group were interested in music and making something kind of abstract that was related to music somehow for our game. And so in order to make this game, we use Unreal Engine 4. Similar types of things could also be made with Unity, of course. The thing with Unreal Engine 4 is that some of our teammates knew C++ really well, and so that's why they wanted to use it, but we ended up using Blueprints instead, which is great because there's no code needed for that. Or if you all know different coding languages, then you can still collaborate together with the correct logic there. And we also use some interesting spatial audio features for it, since it was a sound-based experience. We also use a program called Blender, which is a free program that allows you to make or edit 3D models. So we did some of those custom. We also use programs Ableton Live and Audacity to prepare audio files for the different synthesizer, music files. And then CG Trader is also a nice resource that's out there, because there are different free assets that you can use to decorate the scene. For this particular hackathon, there was a specific rule where you definitely can't use paid assets because they didn't want it to be like unfair. So anything that was free game, and you know, using the appropriate licenses, you can really get started with something without having to be a 3D artist. And so how to get started. This is just a quick little infographic that I found online that kind of goes through what the hackathon process basically is like. So first you want to kind of understand, you know, what type of problems you can solve and what kind of tools you have. Just kind of start brainstorming there and kind of diverge out, like what are the possibilities? What could you do with these different technologies or these different ideas that you have? And then once you have all those ideas kind of coming out, you can make a decision and start to kind of converge them into one path that you can take to make your prototype. And while you're making that, you know, there's a lot of testing that's going to happen through the rapid prototyping process. And so as far as forming an idea goes, some brainstorming questions you might want to ask yourself are like, are there any problems that you want to solve? What type of games do you enjoy? So, you know, if it's for the mixer spatial synthesizer, for example, we wanted a way to, we really enjoy like something like Beat Saber, but we want to make something that was different and unique. So that's kind of where we got some of that inspiration, besides being musicians ourselves. And then as far as when you're forming an idea, really the goal that you have at a hackathon is to make a minimum viable product. And so what that means is, minimum is of course like, what are the bare bones features that need to work for this product to actually make sense? Is it viable? So can I reasonably accomplish what I want to make with this app? And also, would it be easy for others to use? Like, is it too complex for people to set up and try during the hackathon weekend? And then also, while you're thinking of all these brainstorming ideas, you know, there's some things that you got to separate out as clear bonuses. Like you might not be able to get those done, but if you end up having the time, then you can add that on at the end. And as far as choosing your tools, we do have some suggestions here. So first, think about, you know, what do you already know? If you know C#, Unity is a great option. C++, Unreal Engine, Python, there's different libraries like Pygame and Pygame. JavaScript, there's also a ton of different things here. If you want to do augmented reality, if you want to do an animated game like in P5, what Joshua was doing. There's also different AR libraries from Instagram and Snap. And then there are also a lot of different node code options that use the blueprints that I was talking about, which basically you just take these different elements and you link them together in the same way that you would kind of put together code logic. So that's a really nice way to get started, or as I mentioned, like work with people who know different coding languages. And then in addition to that, kind of looking at what platform do you want to use it on? Is it a desktop experience? Is it a mobile experience, web-based, or is it VR, AR headset, those sort of things. And then how many players are you going to have? Is it going to be like a single player experience, or are you going to have multiple people kind of connect together to make this game? You have to understand what kind of tools are there. And then of course, there's a lot of free audio and music that you can use royalty free as long as you credit it appropriately. So like freesound.org, bensound, and Free Music Archive are some that we recommend. And then again, for free 3D models, CG Trader, Turbo Squid, and Sketchfab are some examples, also Google Poly. Just remember to give proper credit if you're posting it publicly, and just note the licenses there. But and then just some bonus tips for success. Make sure that you set realistic milestones and expectations. So, you know, the best thing that you can do, I think, is work backwards from your demo. So like imagine what you want to create and then kind of reverse engineer it from there to see how you can get through that process, and then plan out some incremental improvements that will get you to that goal. Also be prepared to fail fast, because you know, there's not a lot of time, but if you're methodical about it, then you can just, you know, get the next feature, test it out, and if it doesn't work, you can edit it. And then of course, yeah, allow yourself to scrap these ideas if they're not working, and of course, ask for help if you need it. We have a lot of great mentors here. And just as a quick case study at the end here, at a previous Hack Upstate, I made a game that was an augmented reality rubber duck game. So you kind of see your rubber duck through your phone and you can battle it. And it was a multiplayer game, so everybody could join. And so some things that we had to do first is, you know, make sure that the duck appears on the screen. Simple, but, you know, not as easy as it sounds in some ways. So like when I first had it on there, instead of the duck facing you, it was like offset at the wrong orientation, you know, making sure it's the correct size. It's not this big, but it's, you know, really huge because it's a boss battle kind of thing. Another thing, you know, allowing for attacks to happen. So you have to set the HP for the duck, and then you have to be able to create attack events to make sure that the HP will be reduced when people attack it. And then to make it multiplayer, first we had to host it on a website so that people can actually access it from their phones on the internet. And then I'm implementing the WebSocket API to have that interactive element and to control all those different events. And you can check this out on YouTube, a quick little video that we did for that if you want to check it out. And that's it.
Right, and we do have one question already. Glenn Allen has asked, how has your experience with these projects / hackathons helped you in your regular career or life in general? Thank you for both presenters. And I'll answer that first. It has not helped me as a sysadmin, but it did give me something to look forward to. And Melissa in particular has been instrumental in keeping me in the loop with other events. So that gave me something to look forward to as well. And also I have a teammate from my team that I'm going to start collaborating on projects with. So that's kind of exciting. That could lead to something down the road.
So for me, when I started going to hackathons, Hack Upstate 10 was my first one a few years ago. And first of all, since I just started learning to code at that point, since I was a physics major, not like a computer science major, anything like that, you know, I was really intimidated. I wasn't sure what to do, but then there were some really nice people there that were offering to like have us on our team and learn from them. Like, you know, they taught me how to use GitHub and other things, and it was a really good experience. So then from there, every time that I went to a hackathon, I was able to put these different projects on my portfolio. And when I was applying for jobs right out of college, you know, especially for some software related types of jobs, sometimes I would get a comment from recruiters that's like, oh, you have all these projects that you do in your free time. Like, I've asked computer science majors what they do in their free time, and it's like, oh, I just play video games or something. So like going to hackathons like this can actually be like, not video games are wrong, because obviously you're making some here, but you know, it gives you an opportunity to present some of that stuff that you do in your free time with a hackathon as a way to show your initiative. And that has helped me, I think, get a job, because I had the AR game that I made with the rubber duck on my resume when I was applying to my current job. And that was something unique that a lot of other people didn't have. It was the closest thing that they had to VR that they've really seen anyone do when they're applying to it. So I wasn't planning on going that direction, but because I had that on my resume, you know, I had that opportunity. So there's a lot that you can do from that. And also one last thing is that I was also applying for jobs at one point, and I reached out to someone that I met at a hackathon. It was actually one of the Hack Upstate, about their project, and wanted to get to have a chat with them about their career, and I ended up getting an interview at their company, and I ended up taking my current job before I got the offer there. But that's also another really important thing about hackathons if you're looking to improve your career and get a job, because there's a lot of people to network with. So it's a great experience as far as I'm concerned. So.
Right. The networking becomes a lot better when people can see what you've done right in real time. And also some of the best computer programmers have come from a physics background. So I'm trying to get Melissa to work with me on some physics visualization. So show your support for that in the chat.
Awesome. I will. Cool. Well, thanks, guys, for the presentation. I know that Melissa and Josh will be on Discord and on Slack, so you guys can reach them out there. And they do have their own voice channel called Talk Dash a Video Game Prototyping. If you guys are doing any video game prototyping during Hack Upstate, please feel free to reach out to them, and they'll give you some good tips on how you can approach your project.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Next up, we have Mike Demaria, who will be talking about Salesforce.
Thanks, Jen.
We can make Mike if you can make Mike a co-host, you are a co-host.
Should be all good. I think,
all right.
Can you hear us, Mike?
I can hear you. Let's see if this works.
All right. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Okay, so you should be seeing my screen, right?
Yep, I can see your screen. So Mike is actually a leader of the Syracuse Salesforce Meetup, as he had mentioned at the live Meetup showcase. And one moment. So, and he is a big proponent of test-driven development in SFDX and Trailhead. Mike has previously spoken at Northeast Dreaming, True North Dreaming, and NetWorld plus Interlope. Earning 10 certifications, including PD2 and App Architect, Mike has transitioned to a developer role after spending a decade in QA. Today, Mike will be talking about joining the Salesforce community, making new friends from all over the world, and learning highly sought after in-demand job skills. By the end of Hack Upstate 15, you can build your very first Salesforce solution, and we have some swag to give away as well towards the end. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you. So just kind of like to put the context of who I am and how I got involved in this whole thing. Just a little bit of my history. So I've been using Salesforce since 2015. The product itself is by now about 20 years old, give or take. So relatively later into the game of it, I've come. I graduated from Syracuse University with a computer science degree, so I have a programming background to a certain extent. Although this is my first real programming job. Most of my previous work, I was either a QA engineer or did some business analyst stuff, or as a tech editor for Network Computing Magazine, also right out of Syracuse University as well. But I've gone through the platform. I really love working in Salesforce. It has been tremendously helpful to my career. You know, I actually now have a career as opposed to before when I felt like I was going nowhere. And so that's partly why I'm such an evangelist on this, is that I really like the platform and I think it opens up a lot of possibilities. I do not work for Salesforce. I am not a Salesforce partner. I'm a customer, effectively. My company, I work for Equitable. You'll see us in the Money Building downtown. We're just a Salesforce customer, so they don't pay me. I'm here on my own cognizance. So I'm going to get into very briefly what Salesforce is, just really, really high level in like 30 seconds, go a little bit into some of the career options, and then how to actually get into it and how to actually start building stuff on Salesforce and learning about it and learning about this awesome tech community that is surrounding this product and really has been built up basically out of nothing. So Salesforce itself, primarily customer relationship management. It's about maintaining relationships with your customers or your clients. That's the primary thing. That's what it originally started with. It extends to things like service and case management, so you can handle help desk tickets, customer returns. You could do various omni-channel supports where you could have chat rooms set up or little chat bots set. You can do customers' websites where you have people log in and create a customer-facing portal where people could go, let's say, search against a knowledge base. All of this stuff is built into the product. It covers a tremendous amount of things. It covers a lot of stuff, more stuff than any one person can talk about. And they've really been getting into the AI and big data realm. One of the most recent things was purchasing Tableau. So now if you're a Tableau user, you're actually technically a Salesforce customer. It is a cloud computing platform. It's a multi-tenant platform. So all of the stuff you do is on Salesforce's servers. It's all sitting over there, which is good and bad in various ways, depending on your point of view. And there are unique challenges to that. Unlike, let's say, a traditional developer, you cannot say, hey, I have a 6 million row SQL database. Just give me every record back. They will not let you do that because it's a multi-tenant system. So they say you got certain governor limits on there. You can only request back, chunks of data at a time, or this other stuff you have to build logic in to process it later on when the system becomes more available. And so it presents some unique challenges that other developers don't necessarily have to deal with. And at the same time, they also make it easier to do some things that other developers have to actually code and build. One of the big things about it is they've been really building up their no code and low code options. So it's a great platform for someone who wants to get into building, into software development, or getting into coding, and you might not have a programming background. You can build solutions on the platform. You can build customized solutions without even having to write a single line of code. And so it's great for people who want to transition over. If you want to transition your roles and you want to get more into development, where you can actually start off on some of this easier stuff, some of these point and click tools, and then start getting into actually writing your own code on the side. So first, about careers. This is why a lot of people are starting to get attracted to the platform, at least in the tech community. There are a tremendous amount of opportunities out there right now for Salesforce developers and Salesforce administrators. You could tell Salesforce is in demand because recruiters on LinkedIn will actually disclose the salary rates in their cold calls. So they're messaging me saying, hey, this pays this much. Are you even interested in talking to us about these positions? And a lot of Salesforce positions, because it was initially a cloud computing platform, a lot of them are very friendly to remote workers, 100% remote at that. And a lot of people and a lot of developers that were in big cities like New York and San Francisco and Austin, companies are starting to realize that they can hire these people from anywhere because no one's going to an office anymore. And so we can, as Central New Yorkers, take advantage of that paid differential, where we can be paid at bigger city rates while having a lower cost quality of living. So we don't have to pay $6,000 a month for housing and still get paid at a really high rate, because a lot of people are very confused about how to pay people nowadays, now that big cities are starting to fade away in some of this stuff because everyone's working from home. So we can really take advantage of that in this community and actually make a really, really good living, especially even more so than people in some of the bigger cities. By Salesforce's own numbers, and this is their commission thing, so you can take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, feel free. They're claiming that they're going to add about 1 million new Salesforce jobs every year for the next 4 years. So we need people. And as someone who's seen our team need to hire on a couple of Salesforce people every so often, it's hard to find good Salesforce people. It's hard to find even bad Salesforce people sometimes, just because there's not enough. There's more work than there are people involved. And granted, that's probably true throughout every industry of technology at this point in time, but it's especially bad. Good for the people in the Salesforce world. It's good for us because we're in demand. People need us. We have better negotiating standpoints. In terms of what type of job you could do, it varies the gamut. A lot of people come in as Salesforce administrators. The administrators handle creating reports and dashboards, handling users, creating fields that people could put data into, manipulating pages. And then when you get to the development side, you're doing things like front and back end coding. So you kind of, I don't want to say full stack developer, but you kind of are a full stack developer to a certain degree. There's a lot more JavaScript now coming into the platform. So we are starting to find a big need for people who actually know JavaScript talent. They just recently launched a certified JavaScript developer certification, which is purely about, which is like 75% JavaScript, 25% Salesforce stuff. So if you're a JavaScript person, we need you. We need you on the platform. There's this thing called admin developers, which are kind of a hybrid between the two, where you're not doing actual development work, like actual lines of code, but you are doing stuff that kind of is. A lot of people are ending up that aren't actual full-time developers are finding themselves in that position, where you're still building stuff and you're delivering value to your company and whoever's paying you, but you're not actually writing code, but you are kind of writing code at the same time. And we could see a little bit of that as we go. Also, speaking of consultants, since we are talking about Upstate, there is a Salesforce consultancy in Syracuse called Spark Orange. I've met them a couple of times, and there are some really cool people there. There's also a consultancy in Albany called, I think, Red Argyle. Huron is over in Buffalo. And so we have a couple of local consultancies to the Upstate region, but there are consultants all over the place, of course. And some of them specialize in certain things or certain sectors like nonprofits or higher ed. So there's a little bit of stuff for everyone. So how do you get into Salesforce? How do you actually learn any of this stuff? Because Salesforce is not a cheap product. It costs a fair amount of money. The nice thing is, because we need so many people on the platform, Salesforce realized, oh, we have to be able to figure out a way to get people in and learn this stuff so they can actually become developers. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to sell the products and something else is going to come along. So they released Trailhead. And I'm going to go into Trailhead right now. And Trailhead is precisely how I learned and how I transitioned over to becoming a developer. It is a free, online, gamified platform where you can learn literally about how to use Salesforce and a whole bunch of other stuff too. So all you do is you go to trailhead.salesforce.com and you sign up. And then what you have is they have guided things to tell you how to go through, if you want to go across, let's say, if you want to learn about general topics, they group things together. It's broken down by roles. So if you're an administrator and you're a beginner, you can see some of the new stuff. In terms of content, there are right now about, about 1,100 separate modules that you could learn on. There is someone in the community who actually has all 1,100 modules. And each one of these represents different things you could learn. So let's just pick one randomly here. Event monitoring analysis app. So here's a module, and and some of these are short. Some of them could be 20 minutes. Some of them could be an hour. Some of them could be 2 hours. If I want to learn web components, I have a module here for telling me how to do web components and how to learn it. And it's really extensive, easy to pick up and drop off, as you go. They have projects where you could set up and it guides you through how to do something. So here is setting up a community, a public community for people to log into and post stuff. So it tells you right here, you create the profile, you create the permission set, you set up your roles, you enable it. And it's not just telling you how to do this stuff. You are given multiple, up to 10 of these fully functional instances of Salesforce. So this here is Salesforce. This is a full Salesforce instance where I can create data. I can do whatever I want. My limitation, I can only store 50 megs of data, which is about, I don't know, a couple of thousand records, actually a couple of tens of thousands of records. And I can only create 2 user accounts, but big deal. Aside from that, it's fully functional. You can do anything you want in this. It sticks around as long as you log into this once a year. It sticks around forever. I've used these training environments. I've used this to build proof of concept code for my company. So the very first thing I did to prove and say to my company, I want to be a developer, is they're not just going to give me my own sandbox to play with. It's hard to make that argument to imagine to be like, give me my own special server of Salesforce. I want to play with it. So I used this to build, I had a thing I needed to figure out. I built it all inside this whole thing, this Trailhead playground, completely outside of my company. So I'm not touching anything relating to work, and was able to show my boss and be like, look at what I was able to build, and show a fully functional solution. And be like, hey, look, and it worked. And then took that and was able to use that to build it internally and show my company that I knew what I was doing to a certain degree, and actually go through this. The really cool thing is not only does it tell you the stuff, but it will actively challenge you against Salesforce itself. So in this project, set up the community. This is where you say, go into the org and do stuff. And so what it does is on some of these modules is it will check and it'll say, did you actually do what we asked you to do in these modules? And you can see here, it says no. And so I do not get to complete this module until I go into Salesforce and I go in and I set it up correctly. And it does it for code, and it does it for your declarative development stuff, and it does it for a whole bunch of different things. So if I code something up and my code doesn't work correctly, it says in there, it says, your code didn't validate, or you didn't create the public class correctly, or whatever, and it doesn't let you proceed until you actually do it. So it's not just hands-on training, it's actually checking to make sure, hey, you didn't screw up. You actually did what we asked you to do. It's more than just a textbook. It's actually an interactive environment. And, just as an example for, let's say, some of the low code stuff for the people who might be new to coding, or might be looking to do kind of expand your roles. Yeah, check this out. Let's say you have an opportunity. Yeah, let's say your salespeople are creating opportunities and they have these really big ones. You want to emphasize to people, hey, we want you to really pay attention to these big opportunities. Well, check this out. Add object, opportunity. What's my criteria? Let's say the opportunity amount. And what I'm doing here is I'm effectively doing code to a certain degree, but it's all abstracted out. And you could go directly into code, and you could do this all through actually typing in your code and typing all this stuff. It's a very Java-like environment, is what Salesforce uses. It's something kind of Java-esque. But you don't have to, and they offer a lot of options. So let's say here, all right, you have an opportunity that's over $50,000. Create a new task and assign the task to whoever owns the opportunity. And priority, high. Status, not started. And so now when I get a big opportunity, it automatically would create a task for that person to say, hey, deal with this opportunity. And I could do that without writing any code at all. And that's why it's so nice to have this. And as a developer, I go to these non-code options first. So it's not just admin versus developer stuff here. Developers are using this as well. This is low code functionality. It makes prototyping this stuff and building solutions really fast and really easy. The other nice thing about Salesforce as well is the community, which is also something that really kept me in this platform and really makes me enjoy this platform. The Salesforce community is a really wonderful, close-knit group of people. We are all over the place. We're meeting all the time. We're all talking with each other. We're all sharing knowledge. It's a very open community. A lot of us love to tell other people in the community how to do stuff on the platform, about problems we might have, workarounds, in cases like things go wrong, pitfalls. And so we're constantly talking to each other and saying, just today, I was in Ohana Slack and someone said, I need to figure out what fields are being used in reports. It's something I had to do 2 weeks ago. Message her saying, hey, I know how to do this. Let's meet for half an hour on Wednesday and talk about it. Stuff like that is very prevalent in this community. It's a wonderful group where if you get stuck, there are people out there who are willing to dedicate literally hours of their life to talking to you to figure out how to get you past whatever you have so you can succeed. We are not the cutthroat communities that some of the other groups out there have seen, that we've seen, out there. It's very open, very well knit, very, very tightly knit people, and we're all friends. I've now have friends literally all over the world because of this community. And so I do want to open up to, give people a little bit of time to talk about things, if you want to discuss a little bit about it. And so I'm going to undo the screen sharing. I haven't checked the chat, unfortunately, yet. So, yeah, so is there any open questions? Anyone have anything?
Yeah, I think I see one question from Glenn in the chat.
Mendix. I have not heard of Mendix. I am curious about it, I must admit now. I'm really a big fan, and just building off that, I'm really a big fan of these low code options. It is really enabling a lot of people who don't have the developer background or do not want to have a developer background to be able to build things, to be able to deliver a business value, which is really important these days is to be able to show business value and to show that you could deliver stuff to people and you could improve your business and be fast. And so that's why I really like a lot of these low code things. I think we're going to see, especially as we need more developers in the world, which is always been constant, but it's getting crunchy now. I think we're going to see a lot more of this low code stuff pop into existence for people. Why is the demand so high? A lot of people are using the platform, and we just do not have the people. It's arguably one of the better, if not best, CRMs. It depends on who you ask. It's relatively affordable to a certain degree. I mean, it's not a cheap product. Can one share and draw from shared code? Yes, you can. Yes, and it depends. And There's a decent amount of open source code out there, and you could find stuff on Git repositories. I know for the Syracuse developers group, I post all of my metadata on the website syracusedevelopers.com. So the metadata in the Salesforce world includes everything from actual direct code to your database structure. So like your customized fields, your validation rules to ensure data integrity. All that stuff is called metadata in the Salesforce ecosystem. And so people put them out there. And yeah, and people do throw it on Git and GitHub. They throw the stuff up publicly, which you could then grab and pull down. And you can build up packages so that people don't even have to go get the source code. You could just send someone a link, a URL, and they could install your package directly into either the sandbox or into a production organization. Some of it's commercial, some of it's for free, and some of it is kind of like, hey, here's some stuff, you figure out how to integrate this in your own system. So there's kind of a range of things out there. And yes, the Salesforce Tower is really cool. They have this weird Iris Sauron thing at the top of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. It's neat, yeah. And that's, you know, I mean, they have a big ass building in San Francisco. I mean, that tells you where your money goes for this thing, you know. But I do like that you know, even though the platform itself is pricey, you can actually get hands-on experience. One of my hack for this open hack today is being built in one of these trailhead playgrounds. And so I am not paying a single dime to develop my you know, Salesforce solution.
I think you got one more question in the chat, Mike, from Brian there.
More profitable freelancer hire on as an in-house SAP developer. Well, I can't speak for SAP, but I could speak for Salesforce. And I guess it varies. You know, theoretically, consultants and freelance people theoretically can make more, but at the same time, you know, you have to build up your client base. So getting that first job could be difficult, and then it's like, are you going to be consistently with people? You know, are you going to have consistent work? So it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say what actually is going to be better and what's going to be more profitable. It may be easier to start if you want to go the consulting route, to go with a consultancy firm like, you know, like Spark Orange or one of those type of people, than it is to necessarily go in-house. In terms of hiring out, if you're looking to pick someone up, it depends on if you need someone temporarily or someone who just has some domain knowledge, or if you want to have a long-term solution. A lot of the work in the Salesforce ecosystem is really dependent on understanding the business processes and understanding what the customer wants. And so a lot of my day as a developer is trying to understand, not necessarily look at the requirement the business gave me, but ask them, what are you actually trying to achieve? So I know both how to build the solution and if what they're asking for is really what they need. Because I've had a lot of cases where my business partner, they say they need something, but what they asked for and what they needed is two different things, and I have to go and figure that out. So a lot of Salesforce consultants do kind of act as like a part-time business analyst in addition to being a developer. And so I have a small piece of swag to give away because Salesforce is very generous to us. I have one of these, and I'm going to turn off the background because otherwise you won't be able to see anything. I got a very lovely Salesforce hoodie here. These things are really nice quality. And so to give it away, I'm going to have two requirements. One is you have to be in the United States because I don't want to ship internationally. And so here's the challenge. In 15 minutes, KK Slider shows up in Animal Crossing. So the first person to put a KK Slider song into the chat gets the hoodie.
What's that?
It's a video game.
How am I supposed to know what that is?
KK Slider.
KK Slider. So the first one to post one of his New Horizons songs. I'm going to have to find a list because I don't know what they are.
I just went ahead and allowed everyone to unmute themselves. So either yell it out, you can unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat.
Hello, I'm Marianne. I live in between Albany and Saratoga Springs.
Hello, Marianne.
My daughter's in college and she's very active in the hackathon group there. And I thought this was an opportunity for me to see what it's like. So I signed up as an observer.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
She's at SUNY Binghamton.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. So I don't have an answer to Mike's question. I'll tell you what, Mike, if we don't get anyone answering here, what we could do is circle back in the Slack or Discord channels and ask it there. And just if no one gets it here.
Fair enough.
I knew what Animal Crossing is, but I don't play it.
If you want a hoodie, find a song and post it in.
I just have a question. Do you just want, is it if someone just copied and pasted some lyrics in, would that also count?
Oh no, just the song title.
Just the song title. Okay.
It's a Nintendo game. There's very little voice acting in
okay then. Okay. Well, I guess this game went completely over my head, but okay, thank you.
No, that's
KK
quite okay.
Slider, but like, what song do you want?
Any of them.
Okay, guys, just type in KK Slider, Animal Crossing. I'll literally type this. I don't want to be eligible for because I'm an organizer, but literally type this in Google and it'll literally list some songs. Just letting you know.
Yeah, so if you want on the call, look it up.
There we go. Brian got it.
All right.
So Brian, if you could send, I'm going to put it in the chat. If you could just email me a mailing address, I will send it out.
Well, I know, Mike, you're on Discord, so I can let you know what's Ryan's.
Yeah, in fact, I
yeah.
think what'll be the easiest is, Brian, if you can do us a huge favor and also send your email. So Mike, I know you just sent yours, and just so you guys have each other's emails, and then you guys can coordinate the shipping details and all that good stuff.
Sounds awesome, guys. It was fun playing along with you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Cool. Awesome. Awesome, Mike. Did anyone have any other questions, or Mike, do you have any other last words?
No, I think that's it. Just, check us out. We meet every so often. And so, feel free to check us out or check out our site. And, I hope to see you guys around soon.
Yeah, I think that whole training website is pretty cool and pretty smart of them to get people on board.
It really is one of the best things they did. You could actually get SHNU offers course credit for taking modules in it. So you could actually get 3 college credits. Because why not?
That's pretty neat. Yeah. I should mention that I'm a developer too. I'm not just here because my kid's in taking CS.
It's really awesome.
I did a lot of work with SharePoint, and we had a lot of that kind of stuff that's not really code, but Joe Schmo can't do it. That's why I like that term, admin developer.
It's a great term. I know.
Yes, Mary Ellen, as with me being a mother myself, I was going to say that's a lot of dedication to sit through these talks for the sake of your child. I mean, but either way it goes, I'm admiring your spunk.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah, I
welcome.
actually I was looking at starting another master's degree. I already have 2, and I realized I was just like doing the same thing. I would have repeated some of the same kind of math classes, and so I decided to do a different kind of learning. And I've been joining a lot of meetups in this area. Well, I was for almost a year before the COVID hit, and it's been a whole new way of learning, going to meetups. And I went to the Google Dev Fest here in Albany last year.
Okay.
And I've been really enjoying it. But COVID did kind of shut down our meetups somewhat, quite a bit, except for Linda's, for the Google one. That one's going strong, but a lot of the others really slowed down a lot. So I'm kind of bummed about that. But this has been nice. I found out about it through Linda's meetup, the Google.
So is it true that you can trade in 2 master's degrees for 1 doctorate degree?
Not that I know of.
That tongue in cheek.
Well, I don't go for the same
if you're
thing.
going back, you might as well.
For different fields. I'm not really I never was really motivated to get a PhD because I didn't want to funnel into one thing. I'm more general, all kind of STEM stuff. Even my undergrad was a dual major in 2 STEMs, and then master's also like that. But yeah, I was never interested in a PhD and spending tons of time on one thing. I always think about the things I'm missing out on. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I really appreciate this opportunity to come join you guys.
And we appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, I know that Mike is on Discord and on Slack. So if you guys have any further questions for him, please ping him on there. And he does have a voice channel there called Talk-Salesforce, also Meetup-Salesforce. So he'll be around. Please ping him. And also he has kindly volunteered to come back tomorrow during the judges' deliberation. He will just talk about how he got into tech. So awesome. So he'll be around, like he's always around and willing to give his time. Okay. Thank you, Mike. And Jesse, we're going to get prepped for the raffle in 5 minutes.
Yep, I'm just going to keep this Zoom bridge open. But yeah, in 5 minutes, we'll be hosting the raffle. So Jennifer, if you can actually do me a huge favor and just send a message letting everyone know that the raffle will be starting in 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and just stop the YouTube stream we have right now and start a new one for the raffle. And
I've
then,
actually started the message in Discord if she wants to. Jen, if you want to take care of